Welcome to the Tarrant County Medical Minute podcast.
So, welcome everybody to the Tarrant County Medical Minute. My name is Brian Swift. I am the EVP here at the Tarrant County Medical Society. I am extremely excited today to welcome our first guest, who is Dr. Margie Peschel. Dr. Peschel, welcome.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you. I met you 14 years ago when I started here at the Medical Society, and we've had this great friendship ever since. So we've got a lot to talk about today, and I know that people are going to be very interested in what you have to say. For those of you that don't know Dr. Peschel, Dr. Peschel obtained her medical license in 1959. She has spent all of her career here in Fort Worth. Dr. Peschel worked as a pathologist at St. Joseph Hospital for 10 years, also worked at JPS for a couple of years, but really Dr. Peschel made her mark as the medical director of the Carter Blood Center, where she worked for 20 years. Dr. Peschel was president of TCMS 1983 to 1984. She also won our prestigious gold-headed cane award in 1986. And one of the quotes that I saw that you had mentioned is that one of your greatest accomplishments was that you wanted to make sure the blood supply was as safe as it could possibly be. So why don't you take us back a little bit to that time and talk about how the blood bank came to be and why it was so important to have a secure blood supply?
What happened is that blood banking in Fort Worth back in the 50s we had 4 in the hospitals. People gave blood. But the doctors in Tarrant County realized that blood, with the advances in medicine, that we will need blood. So what they did is the Tarrant County Medical Society together said we need a community blood bank. And they went to the Amon Carter Foundation, who bought the land on West Rosedale, built the building, and they started Carter Blood Center, and everybody contributed. It was a totally volunteer blood bank. At that time, you will not believe it, the only blood we had was in glass bottles. There were no components that you could make. So over the years, and the only test we did on blood was the syphilis test. There was no other test for infectious markers. And during my lifetime, to see how we made the blood supply, we had new diseases come along like AIDS, hepatitis, we were able to really be the top notch, tried to be the best blood bank in the country. What made me happy and satisfied is I grew up in a rural community, church farm, and we had rural hospitals. And I was so pleased that Carter Blood Center, the patient in Hillsborough and Cleburne, Eastland got the same blood that they did in the blood needs that we had here in Fort Worth. I even had Carswell Air Force Base, which was an interesting lifetime, but anyway, it was dealing with the servicemen. One of the things in the testing, and we've truly made blood safe, we also were able to freeze the first blood. We were able to do the first plateletpheresis to get platelets to make blood clot. So not only has the testing made it safer, it was that we had the best community in the world. I will tell you, Fort Worth gave blood, and that it was something that we were so happy that.
So back then, when people were donating, when you said, we needed blood, how did you get the word out to people? Nowadays, right, they have blood banks, and you can pretty much pick up the phone and, hey, I want to donate blood. But how did you even back then get out the word saying, we need you to sign up to give blood?
What else would you do? Go out, meet with the community. I went to the churches. Mineral Wells gave every Monday evening. You know what I mean? Monday. We went. What I thought would be interesting is we needed to educate people for the future. And I did a color book in elementary school. I gave talks to the elementary students.
Wow.
We went to those high schools and talked. Our greatest blood drives were to educate our public high school students. Not only do we do that, as you know, one of the benefits that we added at the end is to do things like cholesterol and so forth. And what we do is the young boy in high school can be tested and know if there's anything health-wise he needs to be advised on. They can get your cholesterol. The other thing is we went to the colleges. Mm-hmm. We went to industry. Lockheed Martin there. We went to the greatest thing was in 1977 when the Amon Carter Foundation gave us the money for the buses. So it allowed us to go to industry that could not have a space for a blood drive, and the church.
And you pull up in a bus.
And I loved it when this little 8-year-old pointed and said, "That's the blood bus," because we had made everybody aware that they need to give blood.
That is
one of the things that we did in our community, sort of first in the nation, is we don't buy blood. We did not buy blood. It was a totally volunteer blood bank, and it still is. Totally volunteer. And that way.
And I would imagine that because of the success that Fort Worth had, I bet you places around the country, right, looked at what you guys were doing as it relates to this subject.
Yeah. It was nice. The blood banks blood is a drug. So it is regulated. The only drug that's blood is done like a drug by the FDA. And to be inspected and accredited by FDA is very important. To me it was. Mm-hmm. And we became, the first year I was there, I got us accredited by FDA. The other reason for doing that is I couldn't help somebody else out in Oklahoma with a rare unit if I couldn't ship blood across the state line unless it was accredited.
Wow.
So
all these new things going on, and you had to maneuver your way and get through it all. I mean, the changes at that time must have been phenomenal.
Oh, it is. And, so many regulations came in. But I had to be the privilege of helping. I chaired the blood bank committee, the blood committee for the TMA. Mm-hmm. I was in charge of the accreditation and inspection of all the blood banks and transfusion services in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. I'd send out inspectors, and then they would come back, and I would accredit them or tell them what they need to do. So you ended up knowing that. And then I also was on the national inspection, accreditation program. And then I also ended up being on the standards committee, which are the standards for blood banking all over the world.
That's great.
And what happened is I know that we were meeting the standards. So I really felt that we had a good blood center here.
Nice. Well, let me take you back a little bit more even. So pathology, right? That's what your specialty was. Again, a woman in medical school right back in the day. Why don't you how did you come up with pathology? Like, what made you go into that?
I will tell you, I have a problem to be asking a million questions. I want to know the answer. So what happened, I was really there were 9 in-house staff at Harris. I did my internship at Harris.
Okay.
And there were 8 men, and me. Anyway, I was always asking questions and in trouble. And so what happened, I was finishing up my internship and deciding what I wanted to do. And I thought it would be very difficult to be a family practice with 2 small children. So anyway, I was called down to the library, and there sat at the library was the chief of staff, the head of OB, the head of internal medicine, the head of surgery. And I thought, oh, God, what did I do now? And what they did is they told me that the doctors had been watching me, and what they felt that I should go into was pathology, that I asked too many questions.
And that's how it happened.
Too many answers. And I thought, I never thought about being a pathologist. I went home. I had a husband who was supportive all those years, and he said, do whatever you want. And I went into pathology and never regretted it.
Never regretted it. What if you had not went into pathology, looking back, is there another specialty you thought you might, would have liked?
I really thought anesthesia would be good for a woman. And in fact, I even sent my things and got it, at Southwestern, and they would take me as a resident. But I thought I would respect these doctors because they'd been so good to teach me all year.
Right. So as you know, like being the lone wolf, right? For the most part, a woman in medicine now. We have lots of women that obviously are physicians that go to medical school. In fact, I know TCU back a few years ago, they admitted more women into medical school than they did men. So we have a Women in Medicine committee here at the Tarrant County Medical Society, and I know you've been to some of the events that we have. What do you think about those, and what advice would you give to some of our young women physicians about attending those events?
Well, I think one thing is just to say I lived through this. If I can make it, you can make it. But I really think over the years since we didn't have this committee and we had young women come into practice, they did come over to visit me at the blood center and share their concerns. And it really pointed out to me that we needed this, that women's needs are... I'm a country. I really think there's a difference between men and women. So it really made me that we have special needs. One of the problems sometimes with women doctors is that we want to be the best doctor, the best mother, the best wife, the best church member. And it's very difficult to be best in everything. And what I've advised them and what I think that we need to know is that you're not alone. You can share your concerns who've been through with each other. You can discuss about how it was to have a child in school and not know what to do. It's something that you need to talk to each other about. And I really am pleased that we have this, and it's going to grow because the number... I can remember I went down when I was a freshman medical student and asked them at the Board of Coordinates in Austin to let more women in medical school, but they weren't so very receptive to my invitation. But it certainly has made me proud.
That is awesome. We talk a lot today of people that are coming into medical school, male or female, and they talk about work-life balance. And I want to read you something that I was going through your file, and you did an interview back in 1966. And this is what you said, and I really want to read this. It says...
You can read that?
I can read that. So it says, Margie Peschel cleans her house. She sews her own clothes and those of her 2 daughters. She shops for groceries on double-stamped days, prepares all her family's meals, even does some canning. She knows today what she'll be serving for dinner any night during April. She enjoys coffee clutches with her neighbors. She bicycles for exercise. She's active in her church and belongs to a women's circle. And she works as an associate pathologist for St. Joseph Hospital, keeping 7:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. hours most weekdays, working until noon on Saturdays, and taking her turn being on call weekends and nights. And you concluded with, I'm just another working mom. And I think that's really what you just mentioned, right? You can't be all the greatest things. And why don't you elaborate? Because that hit me so hard. I just thought it was beautiful how you stated that. And today, again, when we hear about how do you do this work-life balance, right? And just your thoughts on, again, all the challenges that young physicians and really physicians of any age face these days. How would you advise them to do what you did?
Well, I really think, well, first of all, you need a good husband. That's the first thing for you.
He was very supportive.
He was very supportive, he was. And family. And when this interview was done, there were no daycare centers.
No.
Can you believe? I found one. It was very difficult, and as a resident, I made $75 a month. My babysitters were making more than that. So what I did was I moonlighted. You didn't have that in there. I moonlighted the emergency room at St. Harris because we didn't have any house staff then. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No emergency room physicians. So they came along later. Doctors took turns doing their emergency room. And so I made my money to pay my babysitters. But you do what you have to do, become efficient. But today the women face probably issues that I didn't have to. Today there is such violence in our community with young people. Our schools are in concerns. I read the newspaper every day, and the young woman doctor today is facing things that I didn't have to face. And that's why I feel that having this here and the TMA and Tarrant County Medical has a section where women can share their problems. Mm-hmm. And sort of like, we need to do this.
Right. No, couldn't agree more. And that's why we created the committee. And we have great turnout, and we encourage more people to be part of it, because I don't think there's one meeting you missed. You're always there, and I know all the physicians always flock to you, and they want to hear your stories, and they want to hear about how you solved the challenges that you did. And so it's great to watch that interaction going on between you and them. So it's awesome. What challenges medicine? Let's just talk about medicine. So the challenges medicine faced in the 50s, for example, versus what we recently faced with COVID. Can you talk about, right, medicine, it's always changing, our society's changing. What were some of the big concerns back in the 50s? I mean, obviously, back a couple of years ago, we were all talking about COVID. So take us back a little bit to the 50s. What were the big concerns in medicine in the 50s?
Oh, good. Since I lived through all these.
Yeah.
The biggest, polio.
Polio.
Polio was bad. I can remember, I'll tell you what, I joined the Medical Society in let's go to 65. Mm-hmm. My first year in practice, I joined the Medical Society. The first thing I did as a member of the Tarrant County Medical Society was to go to Brushoki Elementary on 2 Sundays and gave polio vaccine to the children. This was done. We were the first county in the state of Texas to get our children vaccinated against polio.
And remember polio, right? Can you correct me if I'm wrong? polio was affecting children. I mean, at a high rate, right? People were just desperate to make sure their kids, right, did not contract this and the hysteria, right?
We didn't have the first polio vaccine until the 50s, mid-50s.
So how many years then without the vaccine?
All those years.
All those years.
And what happened is the iron lungs we had, you can't believe it. But people were scared even to take the vaccine for their children, because they are today even. Mm-hmm. And what we did is, I think having the doctors be the one to give the vaccine made a difference. Mm-hmm. And the children got, and we wiped out polio. Then, of course, we came along in my lifetime is that we've always had to struggle with tuberculosis. Mm-hmm. It was a real problem because in the 50s, there was no drugs, and you had to go to West Texas and live in a hospital for a year in the climate, so you leave your work, And then we've always fought tuberculosis. And then, of course, in my lifetime, we had HIV, mm-hmm. and AIDS was a serious problem. And now we've got COVID. In medicine, there will always be a new disease. There will be new problems. And that's why the doctors in your community is the ones that can give you the right information. You can trust your doctor. You can trust your doctor.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what's on the horizon, right? So you see the some of the younger people, and maybe this is probably not the right way to say it. I mean, I would say right now I go to the gym more, and I'm more conscious about my health at my age than I was in my 30s. Do you see a change right now going on that people maybe are, because of all the things we have we have processed foods and we have all these things, right, that maybe can harm our bodies. Do you see any sort of fitness and wellness that is kind of taking hold on people and saying, you know what, I've got one body, I need to make sure I start taking care of it so I don't have all these health problems moving into the future? Or I just heard recently, this a couple years ago, that actually our mortality, instead of going up, it started to go down. Now, I don't know if that was because of COVID, but do you think that people are paying a little bit more attention to their health, and we should focus more on educating and getting resources so they don't have to go and see physicians when they're really sick or they have something like cancer, or we're putting all those resources in at the end of life? Is there something we can do better than we're doing right now as it relates to healthcare?
Yes, I think people should be concerned about their health. And I know there's more people going. I drive by these exercise places and they're packed. The only thing is that they were eating a lot, probably exercise and then go over and eat the wrong food. But anyway, and it's not only, I taught a course at the junior college for seniors, What's Up, Doc? And it was interesting talking to the seniors. In fact, I taught them how to read the can, what's on the can. Making them aware of things, because even the seniors needed to do this. And it was their first time they ever saw that it tells you how many calories are in there. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things we can do. And I certainly think that we need to, the doctors now don't have time to tell you about your health-wise. And I think we need to have something like this pod where we can share the information of what is healthy. And that's why I'm so excited, is that we can reach a public that the doctors don't have time, but it's really the doctors telling the public that you need to eat right, exercise, and to live long. The statistics that I just saw is that in 2000, we had 35 million elders. in 2050, coming up, 2050, we're going to have 70 million elderly people.
Wow.
It's going to double in that length of time. And the seniors have special needs. The diet they eat, they don't understand their insurance. There's so many needs that the seniors need that they don't understand the system. And the doctor doesn't have time to explain to these things to them.
Right.
And I think that why I'm excited about this is we have a means now to tell the people, the elder and the young, about what is true.
Right.
And that's what I'm so excited about this.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to have you on as one of the first guests, because this is not going to be the last time that you're going to be on. You've got so much information, just a fantastic person and personality. I know our guests out there want to hear more from you. But let me end this podcast on this question. Why should physicians in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, be involved in the medical society? I mean, we see people, physicians that just, they're just not engaged. They don't understand the reason to be involved. If you were to give them some advice about why they should belong to organized medicine, what would you say to them?
No, can I look at something?
Yeah.
I said here that organized medicine is the only way we will be able to survive against what's the government, the insurance company, all the things that are hitting us. And therefore, we need to be together. It's the only way. And I'd like to end it with a statement.
Yes.
Okay. To me, the practice of medicine is an art. It's not a trade. The practice of medicine is a calling. It is not a business. It is a calling where you act, your heart and your brain acts together. And I feel that is what a doctor does, is that we do it not only with our brains, but with our heart. And that's what makes medicine so great.
Well, I love you, and we're going to be friends forever.
That's
and what a great way to end this podcast, and we're going to have you back soon. And so thank you, everybody, and we will be back again soon with our next podcast. So stay tuned, follow us on all our outlets, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you, Dr. Peschel.